Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Ultra Hardware number 44625 lever handle mortise lock set with deadbolt. All this weighs about 3.8 pounds and is a box that contains the mortise lock and its installation instructions. And this first portion of the video will be a visual review of everything. We will touch on, during that, a dimensional review of the parts as we go along through them, and then we're going to dissect the installation instructions and talk about how a successful installation hopefully will be the end result of you purchasing this lock. So first of all, you've got the lock body here, okay? European style lock body that would take a profile cylinder. And generally, in these sorts of locks, the deadbolt is down below. Okay, profile cylinder here. There is a reference to how to reverse the latch bolt, which nowadays is generally quite easy. To reverse latch bolt, press latch in and remove screw. Remove latch, rotate it 180 degrees, insert latch, and replace the screw. So the bottom line is, when you depress that, you get that screw. You remove the screw, take the latch out, turn it over, put it back in, depress, tighten the screw back down. I won't demonstrate that since it's pretty straightforward on how to do that. Because the case never comes off, there's really no chance of losing any parts. Now, will it fit your door? Let's take a look. Overall height of the lock body, overall height going to be about 9 5/8 overall height. Overall width looks like it's just about 15/16. Projection of that latch, it's about almost 3/8. I'd like to be able to manipulate the deadbolt but it seems like I will need the profile cylinder installed. In order to make that happen. Yeah, I'm not able to see which parts to manipulate to throw the bolt, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's go over some dimensions of the case itself. Overall height of the lock case, 7 inch. Overall depth from the back side of the faceplate, about 2 1/4. And the thickness of that plate's probably going to be about 100 thousandths. So just less than 1/8 of an inch. Very importantly, center line of where the lever or the trim will go, that hub center line, down to the profile cylinder area, looks like you're about 3 5/8 kind of center to center on that. Meaning the center of where the spindle is to the center of the profile cylinder. Okay. I don't know why they call that shape, that teardrop shape, a profile cylinder. That's just what they're referred to as. We've got some dimensions of that. Let's move on with more parts here. The trim itself, and I can tell already it's solid brass, which is quite nice. Ultra makes a lot of very nice products of solid brass, and their quality is good. I never see anything solid brass from Ultra that I'm not pleased with. Okay, so you've got 2 trims. They're going to be identical. It won't matter what side you mount them on. They're surface mounted. The spindles have to go through both sides for the trim. The profile cylinder will certainly go through as well because you need to lock and unlock from both sides of the door, whether it be a key or a cylinder. Okay, let's put one down. Let's take some dimensions. Overall height of the trim, about 8 1/4. Overall width, about 1 1/8 inches. Okay, That piece that came out is just the plastic bushing that is used for the trim itself. I'm going to set these pieces aside. I'm going to move to the strike plate. Non-handed, fully reversible, solid brass again, polished with a lacquer. It can be installed for a right-hand door or for a left-hand door. Let's take some dimensional properties of it. About 7 9/16 overall height. An overall width, about 1.5 inches. Center line of the screw hole to the edge of the lip looks like it's about 7/8. Okay, 7/8. That's our strike plate. Now, let's take a look at probably what surely are the levers. Those should be relatively magnificent as well, given the impressive... The video doesn't do justice, in my opinion, on the caliber of the brass that we're seeing here. It's not that mine is a trained eye, but to a trained eye, you can tell that that's solid brass. You can just tell. It has a rich, regal, handsome finish. Finish that's possible on solid brasses, whether it be polished or satin, but polishing it is, of course, a nice way to look at it. Okay, you're going to have a couple of levers. And this, I'll tell you, this lever is partially where the lock gets its weight. It's heavy. These two levers are going to be identical. And what that tells me is that you're going to have... what that tells me is you're going to have an installation that looks like this, or an installation that is going to look like like this. Well, let's start over. You're going to have an installation that will look like this from one side, or it will look like this from that same side, because these levers are not symmetrical. No, actually, you'll be... Let's take a look here. Let's get a closer look at this. This may permit it to be installed. Yeah, they show the lever trim in this direction, but the installation instructions show it this way. You'd be able to install this either way. If you want those levers pointed up, which, in my opinion, would be the opposite way of correct, although you might like the look, you'd be able to install that either way. Because these spindles, as I had said earlier, are identical. There's nothing that differentiates the exterior from the interior, and therefore, since you are literally getting one of each hand, you will be able to install them either way. A single set screw is what's going to hold it onto the spindle once it's installed. Let's take some basic dimensions. Overall width of the lever looks like it's about 4.5. And overall height we can kind of gauge at about 1 3/8, let's say. Projection off the face of that plate, the escutcheon plate, is going to be just heavy on 1 inch, maybe 1 1/16. Okay. Let's set those sides, and I think all that we're going to be encountering at this moment are just screws and bolts and ancillary material. Obviously the spindles. And the cylinder, certainly. Okay, we're good. Oh yeah. It's a nice looking profile cylinder. So that's what a profile cylinder is. There's lots of these that exist in the world in terms of the function, cylinder by cylinder, cylinder by thumb turn by thumb turn, length of everything overall, length from here to here, here to here. All of that can be manufactured, has nothing to do with this ultra lock. The timing of this lobe as well can all be ordered. It's something that we get into from a different manufacturer we do very little of, because profile cylinders come with the lock. You're dealing with a manufactured swinging door from a residential door manufacturer. You'll get a profile cylinder. Now this happens to be, it looks like a Schlage key, that's for sure. And I can tell you that it is a Schlage C keyway, which is nice because that should permit you a very easy path to be able to key this to the rest of your house. My house has a slider on it from a well-known residential door manufacturer that has a profile cylinder, and I was able to, because it's Schlage C, I could key it all, everything else alike. My application has Baldwin, and Baldwin is Schlage C. Nice quality, very, very decent. So obviously turning this lobe is going to allow you to lock and unlock. The lock set, you'll get 2 keys that are 5-pin. This is a 5-pin cylinder. Rekeying them is not necessarily fun, because you can't remove the cylinder plug from the housing. You literally have to pull these set screws out, pull the springs out, pull the top pins out, pull the bottom pins out, put your key in there, and then dump the pins and hope that they're the right size. And what I would do, and I'm not a locksmith, but if I was going to rekey this, I would take the new key and I would put 1 pin in it. I would test for proper operation. Okay? Meaning you've got to put a bottom pin, then the top pin, then the spring, and I would just hold it down with my finger and test it. I would go a pin smaller, I'd go a pin larger to make sure that I get the exact size of the pin using an 0.03000, a .003 pinning kit to get it exactly correct so it works nice and smooth. If you're going to do 10 of them, it's not a big deal to do 10. The first one takes you a little bit of time, though. But that's how I've done it in the past. Okay, profile cylinder. Now you're going to get the 6 screws for attaching the escutcheons to the door. Indeed. Hold the phone, Governor. Let's see where those screws are. Stand by. I misspoke. They're not the screws for the escutcheon. They're the screws for the strike plate. The screws for the escutcheon itself, they're not screws at all, in fact. They're through bolts or sex bolts. Sometimes they're called binding posts, but through bolts would certainly work. They're through bolted. These would be very, if you hear the term sex bolt, that's what this is. You've got a, wow, this is actually, I've never seen this before, as you can tell. This is actually a double-sided through bolt. You've got a machine bolt here. Let's liberate that from its packaging and take a closer look. Threaded machine bolt on one side, threaded machine bolt on the other side. That's awfully nice. Probably going to get it installed onto one plate on one side and then slide the whole, probably on all 3 plates, pardon me, all 3 screws with 1 screw pulled out, it already installed, slide it all the way through, then tighten it down. That's probably how you're going to do that. Moving on after that, we do get the screws for the strike. We do get the screw for the profile cylinder. That's going to go through the okay. That's going to go through the hole that's here and connect to the cylinder, because the cylinder is actually threaded, which prevents it from moving. And I'll show you that threaded portion right there. I had mentioned 5 screws earlier, 3 for the strike, 2 to hold the body on, and there are 3 of one screw and then 2 of another. There are literally 2 that are larger, 2 that are larger than the others. The smaller ones are for the strike. We have, speaking of the strike, we have a couple of dust boxes. These dust boxes are important because they will allow you to make a very clean installation. And that's what they're intended to look like. So you'll need to prep the jamb for the dustproof strike, insert both of them, and then your strike goes down over it. You'll want the dustproof strikes. You will not want to install them without, because you'll see the raw wood, the chiseled, the routed wood that's behind there. Finally, we have the spindle along with the Allen wrench, and that's going to be for inserting that spindle with the groove or the notch that's cut into either end. Let the set screw seat into that area. My groove is down here, my set screw is here. You're going to want that set screw to seat into there to help prevent it. I personally would have thread lock on hand for especially the screws for the liquid thread lock. I would use that certainly on the levers. I would use it on the binding posts to hold the plates together as well. You know, you're grabbing the lever, you're using it as a handle by which to pull the door. All those pieces that are screwed together, they're stressed as a result. And that's the bottom line. Use thread lock or don't, eventually you'll have to retighten the screws. I find thread lock gives me a substantially longer amount of time between those events. So the installation instructions, which are linked to down below this video, okay, tell us, step 1, insert the lock cavity into door edge. The manufacturer gives you no templates. They give you no dimensions. And that's not the end of the world. If you are replacing, if you're a homeowner and you're replacing one and the dimensions I've provided earlier are right what you need, don't even worry about it. You're probably in real good shape. If you're an installer or someone custom making a door, you know, you're going to get, you won't machine it based on this video, even though a couple of other dimensions and me blabbing on longer about it would permit you to do that. But you're probably going to want to get the hardware in your hand so that you can put your tape measure and your caliper down to it and then create the prep. Quickly, the prep in the door is going to be the body itself and then the plate. So you'll have two different preparations. You're going to have to drill all the holes through the door, and they don't give you those dimensions, so you're literally going to make your own template for doing this. You'll reverse that latch bolt if necessary before that goes into the door, and the latch bolt does go towards the top of the installation and the deadbolt down below. Once you have the bolt in the proper orientation, the pocket made, the holes through the door prepped, get that body in there and make sure everything lines up, and then you will begin your installation, which will go very quickly at that point. And generally I find mortising for the strike is the part that takes longest. So body is in, profile cylinder is in, your escutcheon trim comes on, and then like I had said in step 5, you'll have to get half of it installed. Slide it all the way through, bring the other screws from the other escutcheon plate, then attach your levers. As indicated, just like we pointed out in step 6, that set screw is going to seat right into the bird's mouth prep that's on the spindle. Step 7 is getting the strike plate installed with the dust boxes. Very simple and straightforward. However, mortising one from scratch, if you don't have the tools or the knowledge or desire really to do it, you might want to take a pass on installing one of these into a new installation. But at the end of the day, it's not difficult, and someone who's experienced would find this nothing other than a regular day's work. So they're easy to install. The only thing is they give you zero direction as to how to begin. I've mortised and machined in wood and steel, for that matter, every possible piece of hardware. So I know how I would go about installing this, and it would absolutely involve having the hardware in my hand and measuring everything, especially with a caliper, and setting my router and the rest of my tools accordingly. Okay, but I wouldn't shy away from it because there's nothing here that's especially difficult. Well, the one thing we've not talked about, and they don't give us, is the back set of that hardware. Gosh, that is something really important to know. The back set is the dimension from the edge of the door to the center of the hole. And you can see that the back set here is about 1 inch and 13/16. That profile cylinder, that's going to be right in that same range as well, 1 13/16. So another thing to check before you decide that this lock will fit right in, you're going to want to know the height and the width of the faceplate. The thickness of that, knowing that as well is nice, but also the back set, and that should have been given. Along with the center to center of the bolt, let's go over that as well before we wrap this up. Thickness of the faceplate, according to my caliper, 0.121. 0.121, so actually just less than 1/8 of an inch, very less. The center to center of our bolts, and I said I would project the deadbolt, and let's do that now. Spinning it the other way allows me to lock and unlock that bolt. Turning it the opposite way allows me to retract. Okay. So let's throw that. Projection. About 3/4, as you can see. A rough center to center on these bolts, you can see, is about 3 3/8. Thickness of that bolt, about 3/8 of an inch. Height of that bolt, about 1 7/16. Height of the latch, it's about 1.25 inches. Okay. Ultra Hardware is a importer of good quality residential and commercial goods. And I have been selling Ultra products for a long time, and I can tell you that I'm very partial to their material because I feel that you get a tremendous value. You get a very good quality product for the cost. Whether it be something that's solid brass, like on a lock like this, or it's something that might be cabinet hardware and it's made of zinc. It's heavy, but the finish is still really nice. And if you are looking for good quality cabinet hardware, I would recommend that you take a look at Ultra's catalog, and I'll tell you where to get to that in a moment. Because I think there's the value there. If you are a commercial customer, I would in particular take a look at their exit devices, their hinges, their grade 2 lever locks. Those are of good value. The link below this video to the manufacturer's page will get you to where you can review not only all of the Ultra products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to that full product catalog. They have such a diverse product line that is growing epically, it seems like all the time, that if you are a hobbyist and looking for some hardware, you might be making something up. You might be building some sort of a boxcar derby rally for the Boy Scouts, making something up. You might be building planters or some sort of furniture in your garage. You might be doing commercial steel door installation. You might be looking for hardware that has fallen out of manufacturing of other mainstream manufacturers and only Ultra offers it. You might want to bookmark that catalog because there are things that Ultra has that I don't see easily from other people. And that, for that reason, I would suggest them to be a possible resource for your projects. Any questions on the Ultra? This is their part number 44625 lever handle mortise lock with a deadbolt and a polished brass finish, or any other Ultra product. Please feel free to reach out to us. There is data down below this video that highlights all the points. Finish is brass. It's a complete lock set. They consider it heavy duty. I wouldn't. For a residential application, I'd say that'd be heavy duty. They do call the back set 1 3/4. My tape measure told me it was a little bit greater. Will fit doors from a range of 1 3/8 to 1 7/8 thick. Spring latch bolt that is reversible. Key operated outside, thumb turn inside. Rekeyable 5-pin cylinder. Double locking, spring latch and a deadbolt. Okay. 1.5 inch posts internally threaded, solid brass trim and cylinder, 1 inch throw on the deadbolt. Deadbolt cannot be retracted unless locked. Okay. Nice quality material from Ultra. Thank you very much.